and the user changes the subhead style for the entire site, your module updates as well. All right, so you want to try to reuse the standard ones if you can, but you can't create custom ones. And the other thing that's done here is that not only is there an ID on each of these, but there's also a resource key. All right, so this is where there's a resource file that grabs the strings for all these resource keys. And there's a little definition for how that works. So basically, typically you name it according to the name of the control you have in the form, the resource file, which, let me just pop one open so you can see it. It's in app local resources. So here's the settings ASX resx file. And you can see there's just a list of all the controls and the strings, the values that should come out of them. So what you can do is you can actually pop in a settings.ascx.gm-de, I think it is for German, Deutsch, okay, .resx, and you can localize this for German or Spanish or Italian or whatever language you want. And as long as you just drop those files in to the resources directory of the portal, and if the user switches to German, they'll get the German string. Okay? You want to be sure you do this up front. It's kind of hard to retrofit later. You want to design this in. Okay? That's kind of my point here. So let me back to the settings ASX. All right, so basically this is just plain old ASPX or ASCX creation, user control creation. You see the control and the register, tags at the top. All right, so let's take a look at the code behind here very quickly. In fact, I'm not going to show that particular module. I'm going to show the display suggestions module code. And the reason I'm going to do that is because in here is where that security check is done. So this is where it's deciding, this is the display list. You have a little drop-down list that shows the list of modules that are available. So what this is saying here is that if we're in the administrator role, okay, then we're going to call get suggestion modules all tags, which returns the name of the modules and the page they're on in parentheses. Otherwise, if you're not the administrator, okay, and this is very simple again, we're going to call get suggestion modules this tab with the ID of the page that we're on. All right, so you'll only get a list of the things that are on the local page for the user who can see this thing. So again, it's just a simple demonstration of how you do security in these things. All right, so this is the user interface layer. You create user controls with the normal code behind stuff that you deal with. We dive a little bit into portal internals here, to do security and some of the other plumbing related stuff. But basically, building a .NET module is really no different than building a regular ASP.NET application, except that you're kind of dealing with the DNN architecture along the way. Any specific questions about module development and running in source mode? That's the real brief version of the module internals. Back to slides for just a moment then. So this is where I can talk about using the starter kit. The book goes through this in detail, so I'm not going to do it here because it's messy. So then these are a set of things that we talk about the plumbing that's provided by DotNetNuke. There's lots of stuff that you'll have to learn about in order to effectively write a module that takes advantage of the DotNetNuke internals. So you've got all the portal data structures and methods. It's the inheritance that you do. Module settings, how you can store settings away, for your module, for instances of your module. How you navigate pages. You navigate between the edit and the settings and the view pages and that sort of stuff. If you have a multi-page module, you can navigate between the various view pages of your module through these built-in navigate methods. So each user control has a key, and you say I want to navigate to this key, this page with this key, and just kind of handles it for you. You don't have to figure out all those URLs manually. You just use these navigate controls. So one for finding edit pages, one for finding display pages. Users' roles and security. Enough said. That's kind of the core of building navigate. There's logic core controls I talked about, localization talked about. Now, you can now use Ajax jQuery on the front end, so you can make your pages very interactive without, doing page refreshes. You can make web service calls underneath the data and refresh your page locally. There's an exception. You can use Silverlight, yeah. You go to Michael Washington's ADEFWebserver.com. I think I have a reference to his site. He talks about how to put Silverlight on. Yeah, he's the leader of the Southern California. exceptions and logging is all built in. You can also communicate between modules. There's an inter-module communication mechanism that lets you talk between. Lots of stuff built in. Tips and tricks. I think we covered all this stuff. Well, debugging a cache to process. There's an exception log under admin event viewer. You're going to find that you got stuff in there when you control these modules. Trust me, you generate any exceptions, they show up in the log. Read those messages carefully, figure out what's going on. And then I just give you a reference to code through the portal core. So if you install DNN source and you want to see how it works, it starts out here. It's not like you can hit, F5 just runs it, but like, F11 or something to step into the thing. It doesn't. You have to figure out where to set the breakpoint. So it starts there, goes to global ASX, and so on. So this just gives you a kind of a quick roadmap to where you can set breakpoints. Standard modules, lots of examples of calling core functions. In fact, the way I do it is I take my .NETNuke source in the directory, and I put all my module sources, and then I just search in that directory structure for keywords. That way I can find, like I insert all of the standard modules into that same set of directories. So then when I just do a text search in those folders, I can find everywhere that a particular core function is called. And so I can find an example of how that call is made. It's really helpful for learning how this stuff works. Cogen tools, just using, I forgot to show you where the line was, but basically everything up through the business objects is all generated for you by Codesmith templates, and there's other code templates you can search for out there. There's a bunch that the communities put out. Object browser is your friend, because .NETNuke's object model is big and deep, and there's a lot of stuff that you can go and explore through. Don't modify the core, then lots of modules. So here are some basic information. Here's that link I was just talking about. ADEF Web Server is Michael Washington's. Actually, just go to adefwebserver.com and you'll find his DNN module development stuff. You actually go to his marriage page thing. No, you just go to the site. But he's got lots of stuff out there, and then there's lots of stuff to search for in the DNN community. There's forums, resources, code tracking, all the documents are there. And then my contact information, again, my slide deck is up on my site under the .NET actually, I think it's called DNN downloads. So you can download the slide deck. And there's links to the webcast, there's links to lots of other presentations that I've done. Any last questions before we go RFP?
Well, this is kind of a politically tricky question for you, but you wrote, what did you say, 4 chapters in the book on this? Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole book on this. Like who's going to, what's the target audience for the book dedicated to module programming?
Well, the audience for the module development book is module developers. Clearly, the overview book that we did is really an overview. It's meant for getting an idea of what's going on. It doesn't deep dive as much, but it gets you started. I mean, I literally go through how to use the starter kit and in detail how to build a module from scratch, how to use the module, and that sort of thing. So if you're more of a casual developer just trying to get a flavor for what it is, the overview book is the stuff that I wrote is great. I didn't know that Mitchell was doing the other book until after we started. So, but like I said, I'm kind of scratching the surface, showing you what we just went through today in a bit more detail, and Mitchell presumably is going to deep dive into and really talk about the details of how to do all this stuff and what all the various trade-offs. I talked about more from a business level.
Answers, just buy both.
Yeah, 40% off, yeah.
Start with my book.
Thanks.
This will be out first anyway.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot, Sam.